Hello and welcome. In this tutorial we will talk about the camera object. Why and when you need a camera, how to set it, and what you can do with the camera. Let's go. As I said before in the lesson about basic principles of 3D, in Spline by default you look at your scene through the personal camera. So when you create a new Spline project, in the project panel, in the viewport drop-down you can see the personal camera option. Personal camera always exists. You can't delete it. You can't even find it in the layer panel. This is just your eyes by default. When you play your scene, you also by default look at the scene preview through the personal camera. In the project panel, you can find the play camera section where personal camera is selected by default. And here is the logic. While modeling something, you will rotate your scene and look at your model from different angles and zoom multiple times. But what if you want to set this angle of view for the future when you will export your scene, but still be free to rotating your scene? So you can just add a custom camera. To do that, press plus and select camera from the list. As soon as you click on the camera here, the camera will be added to the scene, so you will see the camera layer and the camera object, which is just a helper. Also, what will be changed is the play camera option. So by default, when you add a camera to your scene, this camera will be applied as a camera for scene preview. So when you will play your scene, you will look at your scene through the camera you added. But not in the viewport. In the viewport, you will still look through the personal camera. For example, you want to set your camera. Here, you can change the viewport camera to the camera you have added. And now you can rotate your scene, and the position of the camera would be changed as well, like in real life. Also, you can set the camera position using position row. Select the camera layer, and in the object panel, set the position in the position row. By default, if you want your camera to be positioned in the center, the value should be 0 for X and Y axes and 1000 for the Z axis. That axis here is the distance between scene center and camera lens. Remember that in Spline, by default, camera rotates around the origin of the coordinate point. So this orbit where camera rotates is a circle, so that axis is a radius. But if you want to take a look at your scene through the camera, but you don't want to change this view accidentally, you can lock the camera layer, so it will protect you from the random rotation, for example. So you can set the camera with the view you're going to export and continue work in viewport from the personal camera. So camera as an object in the scene could be moved or even rotated. And also as an object, camera has their own settings. So if you select camera layer, in the object panel you will find the camera section. What is important to know here is a type, which can be perspective or orthographic. When you work in viewport through your camera, these options repeat this switcher. So for example, your camera could be set as an orthographic camera while working in the viewport through the personal camera. You could have perspective mode. Near and far are just thresholds of visibility. If some object is cutted, but you think it should be visible, try to change these thresholds. Then we have a FOV, which is field of view. With this option, you can show how much of your scene should be captured. With this option, you can make the effect of a short focus lens. By the way, FOV is available only for camera with a perspective type. And the last thing is zoom, which is the same zoom as here, if your camera is selected as a camera for viewport. Reset button will reset only zoom. Most of the time, for my scene, I use camera with default settings. How I recommend you to set the camera? For example, you have a scene. Look at your scene how you want it to be locked through your camera. For example, like this. And then add the camera. Now your camera has set. Then you can lock it, for example. Locked camera doesn't mean it will be locked in the scene preview. Here you can still rotate your scene. You can have more than one camera, and you can set the animation of switching camera in your scene, but how to animate camera, we will talk in one of the next video. Sometimes you really don't need a camera, and default personal camera should be enough to export your scene. But custom camera can help you not only fix the view, but also fix some objects. What I'm talking about? Look at this scene. When I press play and start orbit, I orbit the whole scene, right? But if I add a camera, and then I will move one of these objects inside the camera layer, like this. Then, while playing and rotating, this object will look fixed. Technically, it looks frozen, but it's just moving with camera. So we don't rotate our object, we rotate our camera, and this object is moving with the camera. This trick can be helpful when you need to have some static object on your scene. For example, you want to have a little instruction about how to interact with your scene, and you want this object always be in the bottom center. To do that, add a camera, move this object in the layer panel inside the camera layer, and now it will always there, even if you rotate your scene. Also, I use this trick when I want to imitate rotation of the object, not the scene. Because by default, when you have an object and a light source on your scene, while rotating in preview, you rotate not only your object but light as well, so you can see where the lightest and darkest part of your object. But if you put the light layer inside the camera, then the rotation of the scene will feel like you rotate only object, and you can see how this object works with the light. Much better than before, isn't? Some options of camera, even if it's a default personal camera or camera you have added, you can set in the export option in the place setting tabs, but we will talk about this window when we talk about export options at all. For now, you have learned that you can add a custom camera to your scene, move it and rotate it, or lock to save the position. You can change option of your camera and use it for fix some objects on the scene. That's it, see you in the next video.